Right, today's job is changing the rear ramp on a Horsebox. Same thing would apply on a trailer, which is the section that goes on top and behind this section when it comes down. It's covered in wood ply and was covered in this rubber ribbed section to give the horse more grip when it goes up onto the van. Now we've come in somewhat halfway through this project where I've already taken off the rubber, taken off the wood. A lot of the weight has been released from the rear ramp, and so it's difficult to keep down. So one of the first jobs to do is to release the pressure on the springs. These are the springs that keep the ramp up. So the other tools that we need for this job are an angle grinder, one of these for cutting off the screws, bolts that hold the wood and rubber and everything in place, screwdriver unscrewing the screws, and a large adjustable wrench like this one here. So to make life easier, we're going to adjust the tension on the springs so we get underneath, and here we can see the large springs that are keeping the ramp up. This is the adjustable nut that adjusts the tension on the ramp. So we get our large wrench and start turning this bolt. You're going to have to move it a long way, probably all the way to the end. Both sides, so spring here, spring the other side, should then allow us to keep the ramp down without having to put a large weight on it. We'll have to sit on it, stand on it all the time, which will allow us to repair it a bit easier. So I'll come back to look at the ramp in a minute once I've done all these springs. Okay, now we've released the springs on the ramp so that it now stays in a horizontal position without any weight on it. Of course, it's got a lot less weight on it now we've stripped the wood off, so all of the wood, plywood, the rotten plywood, being cut, pulled, stripped off. The screws that held it down onto the metal have been cut with an angle grinder, some unscrewed, but if they're heavily rusted then it's easy just to angle grind them off. And the metalwork underneath was somewhat rusty, so I've gone over that with an angle grinder, and for ease of rust proofing, quickest way of doing it, and for long last rust proofing, it's nice to use wax oil with an airline using this splatter gun. I like to mix it with a certain amount of old engine oil, maybe 10-20% added to the wax oil. Makes it a little bit more oily, allows it to penetrate more into the rust and lasts longer. Can drip a little bit more, so watch your dry for a few days to check for any drips. The edge of the metalwork I've painted with rust proofing paint very quickly in this case, so that I can get a good seal between the wood and the metalwork. Obviously won't get such a good seal with wax oil. So I've also got some quite nice quality plywood. In this case it's second-hand marine quality. Having to be lucky and get some £10 a sheet stuff, £10 sterling that is. 18mm exterior grade ply. 8 foot by 4 foot sheets would have been nice, but this is all that was available, which is the 2 foot by 8 foot. It's good enough. 4 sheets should be enough for doing this job. So the next thing is to cut it to size, and I'm going to fit it lengthways across the metal structure, screw it down onto the metalwork, drill some holes first, then insert the screws and cover the whole area. And then after that we will re-glue the rubber back on again with some urethane glue, and screw that down as well, and clean up and put the metal edges back on, which are these things over here, which were stripped off. Aluminium corner 90-degree sort of corner shaped pieces of metal, and they also screw on onto the plywood in this case. So hopefully when I've done all that, that should be the job done, apart from it's in need of a gutter at the top. One of the reasons that this one rotted was that water was coming off the roof and a lot of it flowing down onto the ramp, and there was no gutter fitted above the ramp to divert the water to the sides. So I've got a piece of gutter material that I'll screw onto the top, paint, to do that diverting job, which should hopefully make it last longer.
Right, that's halfway through the job, 2 boards fitted, see there's wax all everywhere. Now we just need to mount the boards onto the frame. So basically we drilled down, done it already but I'll just show you again, drilled down with a capping drill bit, which is just slightly under the size of the screw we can use to fit through. So drill all the way through into the metal. Make sure you got a sharp drill bit. Yeah, some of these need doing. Do some of these look down the line of the frame. I believe about there. So, and get the line correct. We'll look up the frame this time. It should be here. And so on. Then we need to change our screwdriver to a screwdriver bit and see if we can get our screws to fit through the pilot holes. There we go. That's the highest torque, so I think that's the one that's going to do it. And basically we carry on like this, mounting the wood all the way around. And then we'll come back when we finish the rest of the wood and look at the rest.
Okay, wood finished, and now getting ready to remount the rubber mat, goes on use the grip. So I'm going to glue it on as well as screwing it on. I'm going to use this polyurethane adhesive. It's meant for rubber tiles to stick onto asphalt. It's a water absorbing foaming adhesive called PU adhesive, and should be nice and sticky and fairly permanent for this job. Last time I used contact adhesive, which wasn't terribly effective. So I believe this is the recommended adhesive for the job. So I've got the rubber mat lined up, and I'll pull it onto position first, pull up the ramp, mount it on the Black & Decker workmate bench, roll over one side, put on the adhesive, roll the rubber over, and then roll up the other side, put on the adhesive, roll it back, and then put on the edging strips. Right, that's the mat refitted. So you can see where I've applied the glue underneath, doing it in a zigzag pattern all over the joins and all around the periphery, and you can see where the glue is starting to ooze out and foam, where it's absorbing moisture from the atmosphere and curing. So it's forming quite a nice seal around the edge to keep the water out from the plywood. And you see I've applied screws also to screw down the edge of the rubber, and also applied the right length screws at regular intervals on these rubber strips. You can see the screw head has actually sunk down into the rubber and therefore becomes invisible. Keep screwing down around the edge till all this edge is kept down, not leaving any gaps. Hopefully then it's a watertight seal between the rubber and the plywood. So next job is to clean up the edges and re-screw them and seal them onto the edge. Right, that's with the aluminium edges screwed in place and polymer sealant put down the edge or gap between the aluminium and the frame of the ramp. And now we're just going to seal the other edges, stop water getting in where the plywood is, which is to seal down the gap between the aluminium and the rubber with some more polymer sealant. And after we've done that, gone all the way around, turn that up a little bit. This polymer sealant of course gets everywhere. And then all we need to do is paint over the place where we've put the rustproof primer on the metalwork of the frame. The polymer sealant can be painted over. It's that type of sealant, same as used on car body sealing, so ideal for sealing anywhere, especially where you've got to paint it. And then all we've got to do is tighten up the springs, put the ramp back up and put the gutter at the top to stop the rain falling onto the ramp. So there we are, ramp finished, job done, apart from a little bit of paint, gutter fixed at the top. It's a long day, it's getting dark, but quite a nice job and a nice strong ramp. Okay, thanks for watching.